If you've been following my channel, you'll know I've talked a lot about teacher training routes in the UK, mostly those that lead to QTS. But there is one major teacher training option I have never fully covered, and it's one of the most flexible options for non-UK citizens. Today, I'm showing you a teacher training pathway where the United Kingdom's Department for Education funds your training regardless of your degree, subject, or your passport. A route that many international applicants either don't know exists or completely misunderstand. When I say international applicants, I am referring to applicants applying directly from overseas, as well as international residents already living in the UK on work visas, dependent visas, student visas, postgraduate work visas, or other lawful routes. That route is Early Years Initial Teacher Training, also known as EYITT. So if you are not a UK citizen and if funding has been your biggest barrier to teacher training in the UK, this video is one you need to watch carefully. Make sure to watch the full video because I'll also be showing you examples directly from university and provider websites so you can see the funding details for yourself. Also, watching the full video will be extremely helpful because you will find that EYITT works very differently from many of the QTS routes people are familiar with. At the same time, not all EYITT routes are equal for internationals. By the end of this video, you'll know what EYITT actually is, how it compares to QTS and other routes I've already discussed, which EYITT routes accept international applicants, how funding works if you are not a UK citizen, how to choose the best route for your circumstances and still get funding support, and what practical steps you can take if you want to apply. Let's start by clearing up a very common misunderstanding. Despite the name Initial Teacher Training, Early Years Teacher Training is not only for undergraduates. It is not limited to first-time degree holders, and it is not a lower or lesser qualification. It is simply a different teacher training pathway focused on early years education, covering children from birth to age 5. Just as QTS is the recognized professional status for teaching in primary and secondary schools, EYITT leads to early years teacher status, also known as EYTS. EYTS is the recognized professional status for teaching in nurseries, preschools, foundation stages, and earlier settings. And here's something many people don't know. Even teachers who already hold QTS can still train for EYTS if they want to specialize in early years education. So this training is not a step down, it's a different professional specialism. Now let's place EYITT correctly alongside the routes you already know. Just like QTS routes, EYITT comes in multiple pathways. There are undergraduate routes, postgraduate routes, assessment-only routes, and salaried routes. This means EYITT is structured in a very similar way to other UK teacher training programs. But here is where it becomes particularly interesting for international applicants. Unlike QTS funding, which is often subject-specific, EYITT funding is not linked to subject area at all. It does not matter whether you studied education, biology, psychology, business, nursing, sociology, or any other discipline at undergraduate level. As long as you meet the academic entry requirements, your degree subject does not restrict your eligibility, and this is important. Early Years Initial Teacher Training funding also has no nationality-based exclusion. Before we go any further, I want to be very clear about where this information is coming from. Everything I'm sharing in this video is based on current guidance published on official UK government and Department for Education websites, as well as directly from accredited training providers' pages. EYITT funding is not restricted to UK citizens only. It is available to UK citizens, international applicants already living in the UK, and in some cases, applicants coming directly from overseas, provided you are ready to secure your student visa before you start your training. Now let me explain what that means clearly, especially if you are overseas. As an overseas applicant, you will still need to meet UK immigration requirements. This includes providing proof of funds for your visa where required. However, once you start the program, the government funds your training. as long as you meet the academic and eligibility criteria for a funded route. So unlike many QTS bursaries that are tied to specific shortage subjects or funding rules, EYITT funding is route-based, not subject-based, and not nationality-based. The main eligibility criteria for EYITT funding are meeting academic requirements, usually a lower second-class degree or better, meeting English language requirements, and holding the correct immigration permission to study or work in the UK. This is one reason the early years initial teacher training is often more flexible than people realize. Just a quick disclaimer, funding rules and eligibility are controlled by the Department for Education, not individual universities or providers, and they can change. Everything I'm sharing here reflects current official guidance at the time of making this video. Now, let's look at the routes more practically. This is your guide to choosing an appropriate path. The postgraduate or graduate entry EYITT route is the most common and most accessible option for international applicants. This route usually requires a recognized degree, either from the UK or an equivalent overseas qualification. And this is a funded route. The postgraduate or graduate entry option is open to UK citizens, international residents in the UK, and overseas applicants. The employment-based or salaried EYITT routes are more restrictive. These routes usually require the right to work in the UK, depend heavily on employer sponsorship, and are less commonly offered to overseas applicants. So if you're already living legally in the UK on a visa that allows you to work, this may be an option. Note that the salaried route is not funded by government. For those applying from overseas, aim for graduate entry or postgraduate routes. The undergraduate route is also open to international students and usually operates under a student visa. This route, however, does not have government funding attached. This means you will have to fund your training yourself. Same applies to the assessment-only route. There's no funding. Aside from government funding, some universities also offer their own scholarships to international applicants, often based on academic merit or professional experience. These are provider-specific, and you can sometimes verify these on provider websites. Unlike the scholarships, EYITT funding is automatic, meaning you do not need to apply for the funding separately. Also, the funds are processed through the training provider. This means you apply to an accredited provider. If you are eligible and offered a place on a funded route, the provider applies for and manages the funding on your behalf. There is no separate government funding form you need to complete. I want you to look closely at what you're seeing on screen right now. This is an example from a UK university website. You'll notice that the program still advertises tuition fees, and that's normal. Universities must list fees even when funding is available. But just below that, it clearly states that a Department for Education training grant covers the full cost of tuition fees, and that this funding is paid directly to the university on the trainee's behalf. You'll also notice that international students are explicitly included on this page. This is not hypothetical funding. This is not outdated information. This reflects current government guidance for the 2026-2027 academic year. This is exactly how funded EYITT routes work in practice. And this is where it gets even better. On the same official university page, you'll often see a separate section on additional funding and scholarships. This does not replace the government funding. This is in addition to it. So while the Department for Education covers your program fees, universities may also offer their own scholarships, often based on academic merit, professional experience, or nationality. These are provider-specific, optional, and competitive, but they are real, current, and clearly advertised. And here is something else worth saying clearly. You do not need to have studied education at undergraduate level. You do not need prior teaching qualification, and you do not need to already be a qualified teacher before applying for the postgraduate EYITT courses. What you need is a recognized degree, the right visa conditions, and a genuine commitment to early years education. Now that you understand EYITT and how funding works, Let's talk about something very practical: how to find courses and apply. Unlike QTS or PGCE roles, EYITT does not have a single national application portal. This is one major reason many people never discover it. To apply, you must identify accredited providers, contact them directly, and follow each provider's individual application process. I have included a link in the description box that takes you to the official list of accredited EYITT providers. On that page, you will find contact details for each university or training provider. Email them directly. Ask whether they are running early years teacher training programs for the upcoming academic year, which routes are available based on your circumstances, whether international applicants are eligible, and whether funded places are available. Before emailing, always check the provider's website. Many providers advertise courses directly on their own pages and explain how they accept applications. Each provider has its own process, so pay close attention to their instructions. Note that document preparation is a critical aspect of this application, especially as an international applicant. Therefore, before you start sending out applications, make sure you have prepared your documents to required standards. These include qualifications, references, English language evidence, and degree comparability. Rejections and delays usually occur due to poor or insufficient document preparation. I already have a detailed video on my channel explaining the documents international applicants need for PGCE applications. Most of that guidance applies here as well. Watching that video first can help you avoid common mistakes and submit a much stronger application. If you've been feeling locked out of teacher training in the UK because of funding, subject restrictions, or nationality concerns, early years initial teacher training might be the option you didn't know you had. It's flexible, it's funded, and for many international applicants, it's realistic. If this video has been informative, kindly like it and share it with someone who needs this information. Also, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you're notified once I upload a video. And if you have questions about your specific situation, drop them in the comments and I will address them. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.